I remember the sound the door made that day. Not the usual soft click. No, this one was sharp, final. Like the world on the other side no longer belonged to me. The air in the room smelled like bleach and burnt toast. A nurse I didn't recognize was adjusting the bed's metal railings as if she were locking a cage. My hands gripped the sheets, cold and stiff, while my children stood near the doorway like strangers rehearsing a script. "Dad, this is for your own good," Clarissa said. Her voice was calm, too calm. She was always the planner, the one who made her cruelty sound reasonable. "For my own good?" I looked at her, trying to keep my voice steady, without even asking me. She sighed, as if I were a child refusing medicine. "You've been forgetting things. It's not safe for you to live alone anymore." Marcus, my son, shifted uncomfortably and forced a smile. "Yeah, Pop. This place has everything. Nurses, meals, friends. You'll be safer here." I caught the flicker of guilt in his eyes, but he looked away quickly, pretending to check his phone. Inside, my stomach twisted. Something was wrong. This wasn't concern. It was strategy. "Hand me the papers," Clarissa told the nurse, her tone sharp. She didn't even look at me. She was already giving instructions like she owned the place. "What papers?" I asked. She smiled politely, almost sweetly. "Just some legal forms. Power of attorney, medical consent. We took care of everything, don't worry. Took care of everything." Those words echoed. They weren't comforting. They were a verdict. I looked down at the document she placed on the tray. My signature was already there. My hand froze. I hadn't signed this. Not this version. She'd slipped another paper in months ago when I'd trusted her with the house insurance forms. She'd planned this. "Clarissa, what did you do?" I whispered. Marcus stepped between us, pretending to straighten my blanket. "Pop, come on. Don't make this hard." "Don't make this hard?" My voice rose. "You two decided my life without me." Clarissa's face hardened. "You're being dramatic. You raised us to be responsible. Now let us handle things." I wanted to get up, to rip the papers, to walk out. But two orderlies appeared, their faces polite but firm. They positioned themselves near the door, waiting for a signal. Clarissa gave it with a simple nod. The room suddenly felt smaller. My chest tightened as if the walls were leaning in. I wasn't their father anymore. I was a patient, a problem. "I'm not staying here," I said, forcing the words out slowly. "You hear me?" Clarissa's eyes softened, not with love, but with that fake patience she used when lying. "You'll adjust." "Trust me, Dad. This is the best thing for everyone." Then she said it, the line that burned into my bones. "You'll be safer here." She kissed my forehead like she was tucking a child into bed, then turned on her heels. Marcus followed, still not meeting my eyes. The door closed behind them with that same cold click, and just like that, they were gone. The nurse turned off the lights, leaving the room bathed in a sickly yellow glow from the hallway. I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting them one by one to keep my anger from exploding. I could hear the muffled sound of a television down the hall, someone coughing, a dinner tray being wheeled away. I wasn't old enough to need this. Not yet. They hadn't placed me here out of love. They'd done it to clear the house. A flashback cut through the quiet. 2 weeks earlier, Clarissa standing in my kitchen measuring the walls. She'd said it was just for some upgrades. Marcus had distracted me with talk about football, while she whispered with a contractor. I remember the way they moved around the house, like vultures circling a carcass that wasn't even cold yet. I turned on my side, facing the wall, breathing slow and controlled. Rage was no use tonight, not yet. If they thought they'd buried me in this place, they were wrong. I whispered into the darkness, "You locked the door, but you forgot I built the house." Somewhere inside, beneath the humiliation, something hardened, a quiet, burning resolve. This wasn't the end. This was the day the real story began. The first week, I didn't speak much. Not to the nurses, not to the other residents, and definitely not to my children. They thought they'd put me in a cage and thrown away the key. What they didn't realize was that silence, when used right, isn't weakness. It's camouflage. Every morning at 6 a.m., the loudspeaker barked out a cheerful tune like we were in some happy little camp. Nurses pushed breakfast trays down the hallway. Wheelchairs squeaked. A woman named Ethel shouted for her cat every night, even though the cat had been gone for years. I learned the rhythms quickly. The staff changed shifts at 3 p.m. The night nurse liked to watch soap operas in the lounge. The door to the back garden didn't lock properly if you lifted it first, then pushed. Small details. Quiet weapons. One afternoon, a man rolled up beside me in the common area. He was thin, with a sharp nose and eyes that missed nothing. "First week?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. He smirked. "You've still got that look." The "what the hell happened to my life" face? I gave a dry laugh. That obvious. "Name's Leonard," he said, extending a shaky but firm hand. "Used to be a lawyer." Estate law. Families eating each other alive over money. I've seen it all. Leonard became my first real ally. Not because I trusted him fully. Trust was a currency I no longer handed out easily, but because he understood betrayal. Every day, between meals and therapy sessions, we talked. Quietly, strategically. "Clarissa," he said one afternoon, tapping his finger on the chessboard between us, "she's got power of attorney, doesn't she?" "Yes," I muttered. "And Marcus?" "Co-signer on the accounts." Leonard let out a low whistle. "They boxed you in clean. Paperwork's probably watertight." "Probably," I said, "but not perfect." His eyes glinted. "Good. That's the kind of thinking that keeps you from dying in here." That night, lying in the stiff bed, I replayed every conversation with my kids, the way Clarissa rushed me through the insurance papers months ago. Marcus distracting me while she signed. The temporary talk. All the signs were there. I just didn't want to believe them. I began to act weaker than I was, shuffling slower, letting my hands tremble slightly during checkups, smiling blankly when nurses asked questions. If they saw an old man fading away, they'd stop watching so closely. Clarissa called after 2 weeks. I let the phone ring 4 times before picking up. "Dad? Are you adjusting?" I made my voice soft, tired. "It's fine, sweetheart. They feed me. It's quiet." She sounded relieved. "Good. You just focus on resting. Marcus and I are handling everything. You don't have to worry." Those words made my jaw tighten. I forced a small chuckle. "I'm sure you are." She didn't notice the edge beneath my tone. People rarely hear the blade hidden under kindness. After that call, I requested access to the facility library, a dusty room with outdated computers and a locked cabinet of legal books. Leonard helped me convince the staff that we were harmless old men just passing time. What they didn't know was that Leonard was walking me through the basics of financial tracing, trust transfers, and asset shielding. "Don't confront them yet," Leonard warned. "You confront from strength, not anger." "I'm not angry," I lied. He raised an eyebrow. "Yes, you are." "Good. Use it later. For now, paper trails." Each day we plotted in whispers between checkers games and afternoon walks. I contacted my old bank through certified letters, carefully worded to bypass Clarissa's legal reach. A few accounts were already emptied, but others weren't. I shifted what I could, slowly, quietly. Clarissa and Marcus barely visited. When they did, it was all fake smiles and quick check-ins. Marcus stopped by once, carrying a Starbucks cup like a peace offering. "Pop, you need anything?" he asked. "Just your time," I replied softly. He laughed nervously. "You're always dramatic." "I taught you to be better than this," I said, locking eyes with him. "What happened to that boy?" For a moment something flickered. Guilt, maybe, but he shook it off. "You're imagining things, Pop. Everything's fine." He left after 15 minutes. 15 minutes for a man who once spent nights fixing the car with me in the driveway. That night, as I lay awake, I thought about the house. My house. The porch swing Clarissa used to sit on when she was a girl. The kitchen Marcus and I rebuilt after the fire. And now, they were probably tearing it all down for their modern renovation. I could almost hear hammers in the silence. I whispered into the dark, "They think they've already buried me." Weeks turned into months. My act of frailty worked. Staff grew used to me, stopped double-checking everything I did. Leonard and I mapped out an escape plan, not the kind that involves climbing walls, but the kind built on signatures, loopholes, and precise timing. "You don't fight in the open," Leonard said, leaning in one afternoon. "You vanish, make your move, then reappear when the stage is set." I nodded slowly. He was right. Anger makes noise. Strategy moves in silence. So I kept my mouth shut. I shuffled through hallways. I watched, listened, waited. Every fake smile from my children added another brick to the quiet wall I was building inside. They thought they'd put me away to fade, but in the stillness I was sharpening the knife. The alarm hadn't sounded yet, but my body knew. A storm was coming, and I was the one who called it. "Help!" I whispered to the dark. "Something's wrong." Then I waited for the night to notice. Hall lights glowed weak and yellow. I pressed the call button twice and held my chest. When the nurse arrived, I let the tremor spread. Fear makes a convincing illness. "Sir, are you in pain?" "It's tight," I said. "Chest. Dizzy." She shouted for a gurney. Cuffs squeezed my arm. Oxygen hissed. "Don't call my kids," I murmured. "They'll worry." "We have to," she said. "Then tell them I'm sleeping." The ambulance took me in blue light. Leonard and I had planned this. Midnight complaint. Spike in vitals. Transfer for observation. No one questions an old man who can't breathe. At the ER, a doctor ran his list. Pain level, history of falls. No, my chart said I fell last year. Clarissa wrote it to pad her file. I let it help me now. They admitted me. At 3 a.m., a man in a gray jacket lifted my curtain like a magician revealing a trapdoor. "Mr. Carter," he said low. "Leonard sent me." "I'm Reuben. Right on time." "Your discharge is 7, he said, "but you won't be here." We walked to imaging at 3:20. "Turn left, not right. Service elevator. C. Scrubs, cap, mask. Keep the cannula. It sells the look. And if someone stops us?" "You'll be asleep," he said. "I'll be an impatient tech." At 3:18 we moved. I shuffled. He pushed. The elevator doors shut like a held breath. "You sure?" he asked. "More sure than I've ever been." We stepped into a service corridor that smelled of bleach. Reuben handed me a clipboard with a blank form and walked fast, the way people walk when they belong. We passed 2 janitors. No one looked twice. Outside, dawn bruised the sky above the loading bay. A sedan idled. "Phone?" Reuben asked. I shook my head. "Haven't had one in months." "Good." Less to trace. We drove until the city was a smear in the mirror. Reuben handed me a small envelope. 3 cards and a folded letter. One card carried a name that wasn't mine. One held a bank number tied to a company I once owned. One was a medical ID for a clinic I'd never seen. "You're a ghost by noon," he said. He dropped me at a quiet motel behind a diner. "You got a reservation?" the clerk asked. "Yes," I said, using the name on the card. 3 nights. He slid a key. Room 6. On the bed, I opened the letter. Leonard's handwriting leaned forward like a man in a hurry. Title search complete. House still in your name. Clarissa filed temporary caretaker authorization. Not a deed. It can't sell. Land free of liens. Shop shares dormant but transferable. Use the power of attorney notarized by Tompkins in 09. It predates her paperwork. Move fast. Use Willow Bend. Trust. I reactivated the shell. Reuben will courier what you sign. I read it twice. My hands shook. "Thank you," I whispered. By morning, Clarissa and Marcus would believe I'd been sedated at a long-term facility. The nursing home would say transfer for tests. Me? I would be nothing. No address, no phone, no trail at all. I ate eggs at the diner and used the payphone. "Office of Halverson and Beck," a woman said. "Mr. Beck," I answered. "Who's calling?" "Leonard's friend who builds his own exits." A pause, then a new voice. "The line's clean." "Ready to move?" "Yes." "Name?" I gave the card's name. "Good. We carve your assets like a roast. House first, off-market, cash buyer. Land next, bundled. Shop shares through a backdated option Tompkins filed. Everything lands in Willow Bend. You're a grantor. Trustee is a Wyoming LLC. Anyone looks, they see smoke. How long? Months if no one fights. Weeks if you don't sleep. I haven't slept in a year. Short path it is." Weeks blurred into signatures. Reuben came and went with envelopes. I signed deeds in rooms that smelled like toner and dust. A realtor met me at dawn. "Cash buyer," she said. 10% down for speed. "Take it," I said. "Speed is the price." I dreamed of Clarissa measuring the kitchen while Marcus told stories to keep me out of the way. I woke with my jaw locked and my hands in fists. Title cleared. Wire initiated. Shares assigned, Beck reported, steady as a metronome. Each phrase clicked open a lock somewhere far away. Your daughter filed for access to your accounts, he added once. Denied. Wrong authority. She'll push, I said. She can push a wall, he replied. It won't move. I moved motels, then rented a room over a garage under my new name. I learned side streets. I took the long way. Boring keeps you alive. Reuben arrived carrying a brown folder and a metal box. From Leonard, he said. Inside lay a notary stamp. Tompkins' seal from 09. You kept this? Leonard keeps everything. The sale closed on a Wednesday. The wire hit Friday. Funds received to Willow Bend, the bank clerk said. Let it sit, I said. By August, the shop shares were gone too. Everything I built slid into the trust like coins into deep water. No splash, no echo, only the quiet proof that I still controlled my ending. The nurses told Clarissa I was resting. Marcus visited once, found the bed empty, and shrugged like a son who had done all he could. Shame writes easy stories. They chose the one that let them sleep. 2 things, Beck said on a gray morning. 1, the last wire cleared. You're protected. And 2, your daughter hired a private investigator. He's lazy but decent. He'll check hospitals first. How long until he looks harder? A week, maybe less. Then I move again. Where to? Somewhere quieter. Leave a drop address, he said. I agreed. That night I packed the small life I had built. 2 shirts, boots, the metal box, the trust papers, and a photograph of the house when the paint was fresh. I wrote Leonard a note. You were right. Silence is a road. I left at dawn. I bought a ticket with cash and sat at the back, hat low, eyes on the aisle. As the bus pulled away, my heart steadied. I had no address, no number, no past anyone could prove. The driver called the first stop. A baby fussed somewhere near the front. I listened to the road hum. Then a familiar laugh drifted forward. Light, practiced, full of fake comfort. Clarissa. She stood to adjust her bag, turned, and looked down the aisle. Her smile vanished. Her eyes widened. For a heartbeat, we stared at each other through rows of strangers. I did not move. Neither did she. The bus doors hissed for the next stop, the one that would decide which of us vanished first. The house in their photos didn't belong to them anymore, but the way they smiled in those pictures, you'd think they still owned the world. They had no idea I was watching. Every single post, every move, every crack. I'd built a quiet life under another name, a modest home on the edge of a small town, the kind of place where neighbors wave but don't ask questions. My mailbox had a name that wasn't mine. My bank accounts answered to a trust that didn't exist on any family record. But my laptop, that was my window into their kingdom of lies. Clarissa posted again, I muttered to myself, clicking the notification. Her face filled the screen. Too smooth. Too rehearsed. New beginnings, the caption read, with a photo of her standing in front of my house. Except it wasn't mine anymore. I'd sold it to strangers. The porch swing was gone. The shutters were painted white. Behind her, a realtor's banner still fluttered in the yard. She didn't tag her location. She never did. But she always left clues. She's playing Queen, I whispered. At the diner I frequented, the waitress set down my black coffee without asking. Big plans today, Mr. Wells? She asked. Just paperwork, I replied. I always use the name Wells. Short. Forgettable. After breakfast, I went home and opened my binder. I kept everything old school. Printed screenshots, receipts, property transfers, photos, scribbled notes. Page after page, a timeline grew like a spider's web. Every lie had a date. Every mask had a crack. Marcus was easier to track. He lived loud. His gambling problem had been a family secret for years, but now his social media was filled with casino lights and business trips. Another poker weekend, I said, watching a shaky video of him cheering at a roulette table. That's 3 in 2 months. I made a note in the margin. Marcus. Gambling escalating. Possible debt. 2 weeks later, Clarissa posted photos from a charity gala she was supposedly hosting. I zoomed in on the banner behind her. The foundation's name was fake, just a shell she created after I disappeared. The comments were filled with praise, but I noticed the details. Cheap tablecloths, mismatched chairs, rented dresses. She was dressing up fraud as generosity. They're building castles out of sand, I thought, and smiling like they'll never sink. I printed every post and stuck them on my wall, lining them up by date. Photos of Clarissa shaking hands with donors, screenshots of Marcus bragging about investments, a divorce announcement from Clarissa's second husband, citing financial deception, a foreclosure notice buried in public records under Marcus's LLC. Slowly, their world came into focus like a dark puzzle. At night, I'd sit in the dark living room, laptop glow lighting my face, scrolling through their lives like a ghost. Sometimes I laughed, sometimes I clenched my fists, but mostly I studied. One evening, Leonard called. "You're too quiet," he said. His voice was weaker than before. Age had caught up with him. "I'm observing," I replied. "Observation is good, but don't let it rot you." "It's not rot," I said. "It's preparation." He chuckled softly. "Same thing, depending on how long you wait." "I'm not waiting forever." A month later, Clarissa posted a video tour of our family home for a local influencer. She spoke like she owned every brick. "This house has been in our family for generations," she said, opening the door with a smile. Lies rolled off her tongue like honey. I leaned closer to the screen. She was walking through rooms I'd built with my hands, floors I'd nailed, windows I'd replaced after storms, but the house wasn't hers. She was performing for an audience, hoping no one would notice the papers said otherwise. "Keep performing," I whispered. "The curtain will fall soon." Marcus's posts became erratic. Photos of expensive watches one week, pawnshop check-ins the next. His divorce papers went public briefly before he deleted them. I caught them in time. Another note on the wall. Marcus, divorce finalized. Assets liquidated. Debts mounting. I started cross-referencing their lives with financial records. Years ago, I'd taught Clarissa to keep ledgers. I doubted she remembered that I was better at it. Their foundation's filings were sloppy. Dates didn't match. Donor names repeated under slight variations. It was amateur fraud with fancy lighting. My binder thickened. My patience sharpened. One night, as rain tapped the window, I murmured, "Let them build their kingdom on sand." I'll be the tide. I wasn't angry the way I used to be. This wasn't about yelling or demanding apologies. It was about precision. Every post they shared was a confession they didn't know they were making. Every brag was a nail in their own coffin. The turning point came when Clarissa posted a picture with a caption, "Can't wait for the reunion next summer." Family always finds its way back home. She had no idea how right she was. I circled the word reunion in red. Underneath it, I wrote, "Stage set." The clock had been ticking quietly for years, but now it was getting louder. The envelope looked ordinary, cream-colored, thin, harmless, but the moment I saw the handwriting on the front, my fingers froze. Clarissa's cursive, loopy, elegant, fake. The same handwriting she'd used when she forged my signature years ago. I stared at it for a long time before tearing it open. Inside was an embossed card with gold edges. The Carter family reunion, celebrating legacy and love. Date, location, dress code. And at the bottom, in neat script, "Your presence would mean the world to us." I laughed out loud, a deep, bitter laugh that echoed through my quiet kitchen. "They finally want a ghost at their table," I whispered. For years I'd watched them build their fragile kingdom, public smiles, private fractures. Now they were inviting me to step right back into the center of it. Either they didn't think I was alive, or they believed I'd crawl back as the fragile old man they locked away. They were wrong on both counts. Later that night, I called Leonard. His breathing was heavier than before. "They finally sent it," I said. "The invitation?" "Mm-hmm. Big family reunion. Fancy place. Clarissa's playing hostess." "Of course she is. Queen Clarissa. You going?" I hesitated. "I'll be there, but not as me." He gave a raspy chuckle. "About time." "You've been watching long enough. Ghosts aren't meant to stay quiet forever." The next morning, I laid everything out on the kitchen table. A worn passport under my new name, a simple charcoal suit, a pair of dark glasses, and a new cane I'd bought purely for effect. I'd already shaped this identity years ago. Paperwork, medical records, a background that could pass a light check. Reuben had called it your emergency skin. I called it my mask. Over the next few weeks, I prepared in silence. I learned every name on the RSVP list by heart. Old cousins, distant aunts, business partners, even family friends I hadn't seen in decades. Through Clarissa's posts and tagged pictures, I mapped out their alliances like a strategist, placing pieces on a board. Clarissa will control the narrative, I muttered, tapping her photo. Marcus will follow. The rest will orbit. They always did. The reunion was set at a rented estate 2 towns away, a sprawling countryside manor with tall iron gates and long gravel paths, the kind of place that looked rich in pictures, but reeked of rented glory in person. The night before the event, I stood in front of the mirror, wearing my disguise. The beard I'd grown in recent years was now neatly trimmed. My suit was modest but sharp. The glasses softened my face just enough to make people second guess. I practiced my new name under my breath until it sounded natural. Mr. Wells, I said calmly, an old friend of the family. Again, Mr. Wells. This time with a faint smile. Strategic, unthreatening, forgettable. The day of the reunion arrived hot and still. As I drove toward the estate, I felt something unfamiliar in my chest. Not nerves, not fear, anticipation. For years they'd told their version of the story. Today I'd step into their world, not as the man they betrayed, but as the quiet storm they didn't see coming. The gates opened slowly. A valet waved me through. My cane clicked against the stone as I stepped out, adjusting my jacket. No one gave me a second glance. Inside, the air buzzed with polite chatter and fake laughter. Long tables draped in white linen, string lights overhead, a hired jazz band playing softly. I recognized faces that hadn't seen me in decades, but they didn't recognize me. That was the power of disappearing. You return as someone they can't place. I lingered near the back by the photo display Clarissa had set up. There were framed pictures of the good old days. My wedding, family barbecues, me holding Marcus as a baby. My handwriting on the wooden plaque, the Carter legacy. She turned my life into a museum exhibit. Beautiful, isn't it? A woman beside me said. I nodded. Yes, it's something. I'm Ruth, she added. Cousin. Mr. Wells, I replied smoothly. Old friend of the family. Oh, Clarissa mentioned you might come. Said you were close to her father once. My lips twitched. Something like that. Clarissa made her entrance like a politician. Slow, practiced, radiant, dressed in a deep burgundy dress, hair pinned perfectly. She moved from guest to guest, touching shoulders, laughing loudly, pretending to care. Marcus trailed behind her in a tailored suit that couldn't hide the tiredness under his eyes. I watched from the shadows. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking through a screen. I was there, breathing the same air, studying every gesture, every fake smile. Midway through the evening, Marcus raised a glass for a toast. To family, he said, voice booming through the speakers. To the Carter legacy, strong, proud, and built to last. I almost choked on my drink. Built to last? Their kingdom was already cracking. Clarissa followed with her speech, spinning a carefully crafted tale about family values, resilience, and love. Every word was a lie, polished until it gleamed. People clapped, some even teared up. I didn't. I only whispered, Tell the story while you can, Clarissa. Soon the ending won't be yours to write. As the night went on, I made subtle introductions. No big entrances, no dramatic confrontations. Just quiet conversations that left people wondering who I was. I asked questions about the family businesses, about Marcus's ventures, about Clarissa's charity foundation. I nodded, smiled, listened. People love to talk when they think you're harmless. By the end of the night, I'd gathered enough casual intel to confirm what I'd suspected for years. Their empire was built on image, not structure. Debt, lies, crumbling foundations covered in lace and lights. Before leaving, I stood near the gate, watching them from afar. Clarissa threw her head back in laughter, surrounded by people who didn't know the truth. Marcus leaned against a pillar, scrolling through his phone, face tense. They looked untouchable. They weren't. They think they've seen everyone who matters, I murmured. They have no idea who's already inside the room. The invitation had been theirs. But the stage? That was mine now. They didn't see me at first. That's the advantage of being a ghost. I smiled, nodded, and drifted through their circles no one notices until the song changes. Mr. Wells, right? A cousin asked, balancing sliders. How do you know the family? Old friend, I said, from back when the porch was still cedar. She laughed politely and moved on. Clarissa held court near the bar, smiling so hard her teeth looked painted. Marcus leaned close to a man in a dark suit, talking with hands. I paused near a knot of guests, trading gossip like coins. You hear about the foundation? A woman whispered. Raised a fortune this spring. Raised? Another corrected. Not sure it reached the charity. I logged voices, names, tells. A teenage boy edged beside me, studying the photos. You know him? He pointed at a younger me in a cap, holding a laughing baby that used to be Marcus. I did, I said. Good man. My mom says he abandoned everyone, the boy whispered, but Grandpa says that's not true. Sometimes the truth has to leave before people learn how to miss it, I replied. He eyed my cane. You gonna stay long? Long enough. I drifted toward the patio where business voices replaced family voices. Listen, the man in the dark suit told Marcus. If the lenders sniff around again, your sister's gala won't cover the smell. Everything's fine, Marcus said, jaw tight. Inventory's moving. You've got a garage full of returns, the man snapped. Don't sell me a story. Can you push the note 30 days? I already pushed it 60. I stepped back into shadow as they turned. Marcus's smile reappeared like a mask. Good to see you, Mr. Wells, he said. You enjoying yourself? Very much, I said. Strong family. Always, he lied. Inside, Clarissa posed with donors. When the camera lowered, her smile fell. Confirm we're trending, she told an assistant. Crop out the banner seam. I drifted beside her. Impressive evening, I said. She gave me the quick, assessing glance she saved for useful strangers. We try, she said. And you are? Mr. Wells, a friend of older times. Her eyes narrowed. How thoughtful of older times to send someone. I like seeing legacies kept, I said. They can be fragile. Not ours, she replied. Ours is built to last. A waiter bumped my elbow. Water hit my sleeve. Behind us, 2 women whispered. She canceled the contractor twice, one said, waiting on a wire. From who? The other asked. The anonymous donor again. Clarissa's profile stiffened. A young woman with wary eyes approached, holding a little girl with ribboned braids. Aunt Clarissa, have you seen Mom? She asked. Back patio, Clarissa said, soft for the child. Steel for the mother. And tell her to stop using that filter. The young woman looked at me. Have we met? Mr. Wells, I said. She shifted the child. I'm Ava. Marcus's ex. The name landed like a note I had been waiting to hear. Nice to meet you, Ava, I said. Your daughter has your eyes. She has her grandfather's, Ava said, then caught herself. At least that's what the photos say. The child studied the wall. Who's the man with the blue cap? Someone worth remembering, I said. We lingered until Ava's phone buzzed. Clarissa moved on, greeting, laughing, curating. I followed the tremor, not the music. Whispers around the foundation, lenders behind Marcus. The tightness around Ava's mouth whenever Clarissa passed. Near the buffet, 2 older uncles argued in half whispers. Marcus shouldn't have touched the shop shares, one said. He had to, the other replied. The house sale took too long. The sale went through months ago. Then where did the money go? I felt the old house under my skin like a phantom limb. Porch, swing, cedar, gone. A thin man in a blue tie sidled up with a grin. Mr. Wells, he said, I handle filings for the Carter Foundation. If you're considering a gift? I prefer receipts, I said. We provide quarterly reports. I prefer monthly. He stalled. We can accommodate. Good, I said. Send me the last 12 months. Unredacted. Of course, he lied. I stepped onto the back lawn. Crickets sang, the manor windows glowed. Beautiful, isn't it? A voice said. A man my age, silver hair, steady eyes. It is, I answered. You look familiar, he said. Military? Carpenter. Good trade. Things you build outlast you. Sometimes. He nodded toward the house. Sometimes they get taken before you're done. We stood in unfinished silence. Inside, Clarissa called everyone to the stage for a surprise. A slideshow flickered to life. Family memories, anniversaries, my children growing up inside my hands. People cheered. I didn't move. Then a photo I hadn't seen in years. Me on that porch, tools on the steps. Clarissa at 8 hugging my neck. She had chosen it to soften herself by proximity. It softened the room instead. A hush. The boy from earlier tugged his mother's sleeve. "That's the man from the pictures," he said, pointing toward the back where I stood, half in shadow. Clarissa's gaze followed the child's finger. Her smile held, but her eyes sharpened. She scanned faces, skimmed past me, then returned like a needle drawn to a magnet. Her eyes locked on mine. It lasted a heartbeat. She recovered with expert speed, laughter rising like a curtain. "Thank you, everyone," she said, bright. "A few special guests tonight, I see." People turned, heads tilted. The room shifted. I set my glass down. Behind me, a door opened, the night spilling in like an accomplice. Marcus stepped toward the stage, not seeing me yet. The man in the dark suit watched him like a creditor watching a clock. Ava held her daughter tighter. Leonard's warning echoed, "Confront from strength, not anger." I tightened my grip on the cane. The projector hummed. Clarissa's hand hovered over the mic like a dagger choosing where to fall. "Mr. Wells," she said, eyes never leaving mine, "would you do us the honor of saying a few words about our legacy?" The morning after the reunion, I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by a wall of faces. Printed photos, receipts, whispers scribbled on sticky notes. Clarissa's practiced smile. Marcus's forced charm. Ava's watchful eyes. The cracks were no longer hairline. They were fault lines. It was time to dig. I started with what they valued most. Image. Clarissa's charity foundation was her throne, the center of her polished empire. She bragged about anonymous donors, galas, and impact, but I knew that kind of language too well. It's what people use when they want to hide the numbers. I made my first call to Beck, my lawyer. "I need the foundation's filings," I said. He exhaled slowly. "Clarissa?" "Yes." "She's sloppy," he said. "I checked them once years ago. Half the receipts were duplicates. Send me everything you can get." Within 2 days, a thick envelope arrived. Financial statements, donation logs, vendor invoices. On the surface, it looked legitimate, but after years of building businesses, I could smell a forged paper trail, like smoke in a closed room. 2 donor names repeated over and over, slightly misspelled each time. One check number appeared 3 times with different dates. Event expenses were inflated far beyond what the photos from her galas showed. It wasn't charity. It was laundering with a smile and string lights. I called Leonard to share my findings. "She's cooking the books," I said. He coughed through the line. "I always said she had your brains, just none of your conscience." "She's not careful enough," I replied. "She thinks no one's watching." "Are you sure you want to open this box, friend?" he asked. "Once you pull one thread, everything comes with it." I stared at Clarissa's gala photo, pinned to my wall. That's the point. A few days later, I drove back into town under my alias. This time, I wasn't attending a party. I was investigating. I started with the caterer, listed on Clarissa's invoices, a small family-owned business. The owner, a woman in her 60s, wiped her hands on her apron when I approached. "Ma'am, I'm looking into some past charity events," I said politely. "Clarissa Carter's foundation, do you remember catering for them?" She frowned. "Carter? We only did one event for her years ago. She never paid the final balance." "Never?" I asked. She shook her head. "Sent us a check that bounced. Said she'd fix it. We never saw her again. I thanked her. Left with a receipt copy she'd kept, just in case, and added it to my growing folder of Clarissa's lies. Next, I visited the florist, listed on the statements. "Big order," the clerk said when I asked, "except it was canceled last minute." "Twice. But the foundation reported payment," I said. He shrugged. Then someone else got paid. One by one, the pieces lined up. Fake invoices. Donor names that didn't exist. Events that were never paid for. Clarissa had turned charity into her personal ATM. Marcus's side of the web wasn't as polished. Through public court records, I found a list of debts he'd been juggling. Gambling markers, personal loans, a quiet foreclosure he'd tried to hide under a shell company. And the man in the dark suit at the reunion? A lender, the kind that doesn't send polite reminders. The more I uncovered, the clearer the pattern became. Clarissa built the illusion of control while Marcus slowly hollowed it out. They propped each other up with lies. If one fell, the other would follow. I drove back to the estate one afternoon, parked far enough to watch without being noticed. Workers were painting the shutters white. A moving truck was parked outside, loading boxes. My house, was becoming their stage set. Two contractors stood near the porch, arguing. "She says don't touch the foundation," one complained. "Yeah, well, the foundation's cracked," the other replied. "You can paint over it, but it's still rotten." I almost laughed out loud. They were talking about concrete, but they might as well have been talking about the family. Back home, I started making calls to people I'd avoided for years. Old neighbors, distant cousins, business associates. I asked questions casually, like a man reminiscing. What I got back were fragments of gossip Clarissa never imagined would travel. Clarissa's second husband left because she had debt, one said. Marcus asked me for a loan. Said it was a temporary investment, another revealed. She's been using the Carter name to pull favors, a neighbor whispered. Some people started questioning the donations. She threatened to sue. Each call added weight to my case, not just legal weight, moral weight. A story was taking shape, one built on greed, fraud, and arrogance. One night, while organizing documents, I found a photo I'd saved years ago. Clarissa and Marcus sitting on the porch swing, laughing. They were young. So was I. Back then, I believed love was enough to hold us together. I was wrong. Legacy without integrity is just rot under polished wood. I stared at that photo for a long time. I gave you everything, I whispered, and you thought I'd never come back. The final piece came unexpectedly. A letter from Ava arrived, handwritten, cautious. I don't know who you are, Mr. Wells, it began, but I saw the way Clarissa looked at you. She only gets that way when she's scared. If you know something, if you can help expose what they're doing, I'm in. I folded the letter carefully and slid it into my folder. They thought their secrets were buried deep, but all I had to do was dig beneath the smiles. And now I wasn't digging for information anymore. I was digging the ground where I'd build the stage where the truth would stand tall, and they would have nowhere to hide. The will was supposed to be a goodbye. For us, it was a fuse. When the lawyer opened the leather folder, the room held its breath. I did too, but for a different reason. I already knew where the fire would run. Chairs scraped the floor. Guests lined the walls. Clarissa stood by the mantel like a queen in a rented castle. Marcus hovered at the window, thumbs restless. I stayed in the back, hat low, cane steady. The stranger everyone had met, but no one remembered. "Thank you for coming," the lawyer said, calm voice, practiced eyes. "I'm Miss Patel, counsel for the late Mrs. Elaine Carter. Mobile phones off, please," she added. Mrs. Carter wanted dignity. My sister's name softened the room. Elaine, steady hands, sharp mind. She knew how tonight would go. "Mrs. Carter's will is straightforward," Patel said, with one significant provision. Clarissa lifted her chin. "We're ready. Personal effects to be cataloged per note," Patel read, "except items marked for institutional archive." "Of course," Clarissa said, smiling for the room. Elaine loved order. Second, the house and its contents. Marcus stood taller. A cousin whispered, "Finally." "The house is to be liquidated." Clarissa blinked. "Liquidated?" "Sold," Patel said. "Proceeds, along with other liquid assets, to fund a charitable trust, the River Lantern Foundation." A whisper moved through the room. Someone coughed. Someone else laughed too loudly and stopped. "And who controls this trust?" Clarissa asked. "Two co-founders," Patel replied, "Mrs. Elaine Carter and Mr. James Carter." My name fell like a plate. No one moved. Ava turned, eyes searching the shadow where I stood. The teenage boy near the slideshow whispered to his sister, "Told you he wasn't a ghost." "That can't be right," Clarissa said. "My father is named as co-founder," Patel said, steady. "Upon Mrs. Carter's death, the surviving co-founder may appoint interim trustees and call a full forensic audit of any entity using the Carter name for public fundraising." Heads turned toward the banner in the hall. Carter Legacy, changing lives. Marcus laughed without humor. "Ridiculous. He swallowed the word gone. He forfeited the right. There are addenda," Patel said. "Any heir who has exploited the Carter name for private gain is excluded from non-charitable disbursements." "Excluded?" Clarissa's smile thinned. "You expect us to accept this?" "I expect you to listen," Patel said. Then comply. I counted breaths. Not yet. Final provision, Patel continued. The surviving co-founder may be present under any name and may exercise appointment rights immediately. My cane tapped once. Small sound. Clean cut. Clarissa's eyes snapped to me. Mr. Wells, she said sweetly, you seem very interested. I stepped forward. Glasses off. Hat in hand. The photos on the wall recognized me before the people did. Evening, I said. A murmur rolled the length of the room. An aunt grabbed a chair. The teenage boy from the slideshow pointed, certain and quiet. A server froze, holding a tray that began to tremble. Marcus took a step back. No. Clarissa's fingers whitened on her glass. Impossible. It's simple, I said. You forgot what I look like when I'm not looking at you. Ava's little girl whispered, Mama, that's him. Patel inclined her head. Mr. Carter, do you wish to exercise your rights as surviving co-founder? Silence did its work. Then I nodded. Yes, effective immediately. Please state your appointments. Interim board of 3, I said. Ms. Patel as legal trustee. Ms. Ava Carter as beneficiary advocate. I met Ava's eyes and saw surprise steady into resolve. And Mr. Leonard Hayes as community trustee. A thin clap from the doorway. Leonard stood, pale but upright. Took you long enough, he rasped. Clarissa's composure splintered. You brought a stranger and a relic to steal our legacy? Legacy isn't a mirror, I said. It's a ledger. Marcus surged forward. You abandoned us. A memory flashed. The kitchen table. Papers slid over bills. The door locking behind me. Bleach and burnt toast. I left a cage, I said. Voices rose. Family always chooses noise when the truth walks in. Someone muttered, This is wrong, and another answered, Or finally right. There will be order, Patel said. Per the addendum, I am initiating a forensic audit of all entities using the Carter name, including the Carter Foundation. The foundation is mine, Clarissa snapped. It carries the Carter name, Patel replied. It is within scope. You have no authority, Marcus said. None. Authority was created 12 years ago, I answered, when your aunt and I chose light that wasn't for sale. Aunt Ruth stepped forward. He and Elaine planned it, she said. She trusted the work. You knew? Clarissa asked. I knew enough, Ruth said. Enough to stop clapping and start telling the truth? Patel lifted one last page. Mrs. Carter's personal letter to the co-founder. She handed it to me. Elaine's hand, steady as ever. Little brother, if you're reading this, do what we promised. Be quiet until it's time to be loud. Love them enough to tell the truth in front of them. My throat tightened. I slid the letter into my jacket. What do you want? Clarissa whispered. Money? Apology? To humiliate us? I want the truth louder than your story, I said, and for the children to see the difference. Who will believe you? Marcus asked. After you disappeared? Belief is a poor substitute for math, I said, and we brought math. At my signal, the side door opened. 2 people wheeled in cases, a forensic accountant with sharp eyes and a state charities investigator with a badge she didn't hide. A ripple of panic tugged at the edges. Clarissa's smile returned. Brittle, this is a party, she said brightly. You can't turn the celebration into an interrogation. You turned a family into a business, I said. I'm returning it to an account. Per authority granted by the will and trust, Patel said, the audit begins now. Requests for records are served. The accountant handed envelopes to staff, to Clarissa's assistant, to the man in the dark suit. He refused. She tucked it into his pocket like a curse. The room murmured like a hive. Ava moved closer. Are you sure? No, I said. That's how I know it's honest. Marcus stared at the word subpoena and lost the rest of the room. His phone rang. He let it die in his hand. I faced Clarissa. She looked past me, the way people watch a storm they can't outrun. Last chance, I said softly. Tell the truth, before the numbers do. She raised her glass. To family, she said, voice bright and shaking. To legacy. Glasses clinked without conviction. The band started a song no one heard. The teenage boy whispered, It's starting. At the far door, 2 deputies stepped in and waited by the wall. Neutral, patient, like the tide. A cousin began to cry. The server finally set the tray down. The room waited, balanced on a breath. Numbers were coming, and numbers don't forgive. Not ever, no. I rested both hands on my cane. Chapter 1 was the door, I said. This is the ledger. Clarissa's smile finally cracked, and somewhere in the quiet that followed, the fuse reached the powder. The room tightened around the truth, like a fist closing. Records, please, the investigator said, calm as rain. Boxes opened, envelopes slid. People stared at their shoes. Clarissa kept smiling for the crowd. This is a misunderstanding, she told no one and everyone. It's a reconciliation, I said, numbers returning to their owners. The accountant lifted a binder. Carter Foundation, 12 months. Duplicate receipts. Vendors unpaid. Donor names repeated with minor spelling changes. That's clerical, Clarissa said. We've grown fast. Fraud grows fast, the accountant replied. Marcus stepped forward, palms raised. Let's not ruin the night. The night was ruined when you sold daylight, I said. Patel's voice stayed steady. We're serving requests for bank statements, donor ledgers, vendor contracts. You can't just take our records, Marcus snapped. We're not taking them, she said. We're asking you to bring them into the light. The man in the dark suit checked his watch. How long will this take? As long as the truth requires, Patel said. A staffer wheeled in a cart. The top box slid. Papers broke across the floor. A check copy flashed the room. Same number. 3 dates. Photos, the accountant said. I nodded to Ava. She stepped forward, voice steady. These were the gala photos. She flipped through prints. Linen rentals mismatched, chairs borrowed, 0 high-end vendors. Clarissa tried to laugh. You've become an expert in chairs? In patterns, Ava said, especially when they don't match your ledgers. A murmur spread. An aunt crossed herself. My nephew hovered by the door, pale. I remembered he'd been paid to keep quiet. The investigator turned to him. Sir, are you on staff? He swallowed. Sometimes. Did you receive compensation not listed in payroll? He stared at Clarissa. She stared back, unblinking. Answer, the investigator said gently. Yes, he whispered. Cash. She said it was appreciation. Clarissa's smile wavered. Family helps family. Family declares it, Patel said. Marcus pointed at me. This is his revenge. He staged this. I prepared for it, I said. You staged yourselves. The accountant opened another folder. Shop shares. Backdated option notarized in 2009. Legal, Marcus blinked. Then why? Because you pledged them later, the man in the dark suit cut in. And you weren't authorized. Marcus's mask cracked. We had a plan. You had a hole, the man said. Ava held up a printed post. Clarissa's foundation used my daughter's photo without consent. Gasps. Heads turned toward the child. Take it down, Ava said, voice low. Everywhere. Clarissa's assistant trembled. I'll call the media team. The media team isn't the law, Patel said. The teenage boy edged forward. Is it true you put Grandpa in the home without asking? The room stilled. Clarissa breathed in. He needed care. He needed a voice, I said. You used mine as a pen. Marcus slammed a palm on the table. He's not innocent. He left. I met his eyes. After you locked the door, Patel nodded to staff. We will begin copying records now. You can't copy proprietary data, Clarissa said. Charities aren't proprietary, the accountant replied. They're public promises. An older cousin spoke up. I donated my savings for flood relief. They helped, Clarissa said quickly. Receipts show a fraction reached shelters, the accountant said. The rest cycled through vendors linked to your LLC. Silence fell. The man in the dark suit stepped closer to Marcus. We'll speak outside. Marcus didn't move. His phone buzzed. A deputy approached me quietly. Sir, you good? I'm standing, I said. Clarissa tried a different weapon. He disappeared for years and now wants to play hero. He's bitter. I'm disciplined, I said. There's a difference. Patel set down a slim folder. Final item for tonight. What now? Clarissa asked. A letter from the caterer, noting a bounced check, overdue notices from 3 vendors, and a signed threat to sue from your office if they defamed you by going public. That isn't a threat, Clarissa said weakly. It's caution. It's pressure, Patel said, to keep the lights off. The investigator turned to me. Mr. Carter, do you wish to make a statement? Yes, I said. I faced the room. I didn't come to ruin you. You did that. I came so the children... I nodded to the little girl, to the teenage boy. Know what the truth costs and what lies demand. A hush. Marcus exhaled. Fine, he said. You want truth? I took loans. I thought I could flip inventory. I thought the house would be ours and cover the note. I thought... He stopped, eyes wet. I thought Dad would die in there before any of it mattered. The words hit like gravel. Clarissa shut her eyes, then opened them colder. You were always weak, she told Marcus. You funded your gowns, he fired back. With impact, Patel raised a hand. Enough. This isn't a confessional. It's a record the investigator scribbled. Ms. Carter, based on preliminary findings, surrender foundation devices for forensic imaging. My phone? Yes. She hesitated, then handed it over, fingers lingering like it was a limb. The accountant faced the room. Public notice of audit begins tomorrow. You'll destroy our reputation, Clarissa said. You harvested it, the accountant answered. We're only showing the field. Leonard stepped forward, leaning on a chair. Families eat themselves and blame the plate, he said. This ends when the story at home matches the one in public. Clarissa stared at me. You could stop this. I could have stopped it years ago, I said, when you asked for mercy instead of permission. A phone chimed at the doorway. The man in the dark suit listened, then looked at Marcus. That wire you were counting on? It bounced. Marcus closed his eyes. Patel gathered documents. Session adjourned. Tomorrow, depositions begin. People drifted slowly. Ava stood beside me, steady. What happens now? She asked. Consequences, I said, and choices. Clarissa stepped closer, voice low. I will sue you for every breath you took tonight. You forged my breath years ago, I said. I'm only taking it back. She didn't blink. You don't get to write the ending. I already did, I said. You're just reading it late? A deputy crossed the room to Patel. Anonymous tip? There's a second set of books on site. Patel turned. Where? He pointed to the old study. The locksmith stepped forward, tools glinting under the chandelier light. Clarissa's face drained. Marcus whispered, Don't. Open it, Patel said. The key turned. The room held its breath, tighter, sharper, final. As the cabinet doors began to part, even the lies went silent, waiting to see whose name was on the first page. The cabinet doors opened like a throat releasing a lie. Inside lay ledgers, prepaid phones, and envelopes fat with receipts. The investigator pulled on gloves. Clarissa didn't breathe. Copy everything, Patel said. Seal the room. Marcus whispered, We're done. We're beginning, I answered. By morning, the manor felt like a courtroom without a judge. Boxes labeled, devices bagged, deputies at the doors. Clarissa tried one last performance. Everyone go home, she announced. We'll clarify online. Offline first, the investigator said. I stepped into gray air. Gravel crunched. String lights sagged. Ava joined me on the steps. You did it, she said. No, I said. They did it to themselves. You look lighter, she said. Truth steals weight, I answered. 2 days later, depositions began. No chandeliers, just a recorder and chairs that didn't lie. Clarissa sat straight-backed. I believed the invoices were accurate. Belief isn't a ledger, Patel replied. Marcus rubbed his eyes. I'll pay it back, he kept saying, as if time could be wired retroactively. At lunch, Leonard patted my arm. You kept the promise. I kept the ledger, I said. A week later, the findings went public. Duplicate checks, vendor statements, a clip of Clarissa praising Impact beside a rented banner. A cousin called, voice shaking. I'm sorry I clapped. Clapping is easy, I said. Standing is harder. Consequences ran on different clocks. The foundation froze. Marcus's lender moved fast. Clarissa's captions shifted to paragraphs about healing. Comments asked for refunds. Sponsors withdrew their names like hands from a flame. I didn't gloat. I made tea. I slept. Then the letters came. The first was from Marcus. Thick paper. Thin courage. Pop, I messed up. I thought hustle was love. If there's anything left of us. The pen trailed, returned, trailed again. I filed it with the findings. The second was from Clarissa. Perfect punctuation. You could have handled this privately. I will rebuild without you. I set it beside Marcus's and turned off the lamp. Days stretched. I walked mornings and learned my town by sound. The bakery bell, the 9:15 freight, skateboards after school. No one knew my other name. They only knew the man who bought the Sunday paper and counted change with steady hands. One afternoon, Ava called. "The audit's complete," she said. "Restitution, community service, barred from boards. The lawyer calls it mercy." "It is?" I said. "You're not coming to the hearing?" "No," I answered. "This chapter isn't mine to speak in." I stood at the ocean later that week, shoes off, pants rolled, the tide pulling at scars no one could see. The wind said the world didn't owe me a bow for surviving. It had stayed itself, waiting for me to do the same. A small voice. "Are you Grandpa?" I turned. The teenage boy from the slideshow stood with his sister. Ava waited a few steps back. I smiled. "Depends who's asking." "Mom said we could meet you," he said. "If it's okay." "It is." We sat. The girl stitched me into her world with questions. "Why'd you disappear?" "Because I was put away," I said. "And because the quiet is a place you can grow teeth." She giggled. "That's weird." "It is." The boy watched the water. "Are you coming back to the house?" "It isn't mine now," I said. "Houses are wood." "Home is a ledger. How we treat each other," he nodded, storing it like a tool. Ava sat. "They want to apologize," she said. "Not for cameras. For real. I told them you don't owe anything, but I promised to ask." I let the waves answer first. "If they come as people, not a show." Understood. Weeks passed. I started a scholarship under Elaine's name. Quiet, targeted, paid in receipts. The River Lantern Foundation cleaned and rebuilt, began projects without speeches. Fence posts, roof repairs, books in hands. I visited sites like a man visiting his bones, grateful they were healing. One evening, Marcus stood on my porch, thinner, honest in the eyes. "Pop," he said. I opened the door, but not the memory. "Marcus." "I'm in a program," he said. 90 days without a table. "Good," I said. "I don't expect—" He swallowed. "I wanted you to see me standing." "I see you," I said. Another day Clarissa came without cameras. No makeup, no throne. "I'm volunteering," she said, "not leading." Boxes, dishes, I don't know if it counts as change, but my hands hurt. "Good," I said gently. "Pain proves you stop pretending." She looked down the road. "I wanted you to stay weak," she admitted, "because the strong version of you could see me." "I see you," I said. "Now see yourself." We didn't hug or fix it. We let the air hold what words couldn't. That's a kind of honesty, too. At night, I reread Elaine's letter. Be quiet until it's time to be loud. I had been both. Now it was time to be still. People think revenge is thunder. It isn't. It's a ledger back to zero, a door unlocked from the inside, the first clean breath after borrowed air. I walked the beach at dusk, the sky bruised and healing. A gull cried. Someone far away laughed. My phone buzzed. "The kids want to visit Saturday. They'll bring chess." "Good," I typed. "Tell them their grandfather plays slow, but he doesn't lose." I pocketed the phone and let the tide erase my footprints as I made them. The water didn't care who I had been. It welcomed the man I chose to be.